Well, I mean, just initially, he's so Romney is just so disingenuous, which I guess all politicians are. But for him to start talking about the poor as if he actually cared about poor people after the 47% tape, I would have loved to have heard Obama say something about, oh, you mean those 47% of the population that you don't care about, usually now suddenly you care about, right?
Yeah, I didn't hear
People
him
that
say
don't
anything
even
about that.
deserve food, they don't have a right to food. I mean, oh. And then he used Tommy Thompson, the self-styled father of welfare reform, the guy who brought us all the misery that we've been experiencing post-welfare reform. He thinks his model for welfare should be translated to the medical system. Oh no, that's all I can say. Oh great, block grants for medical care. Sounds like a wonderful idea.
How about you, Rock? Any thoughts? I know you said Romney was breaking debate rules, and that seemed to be like kind of helter skelter.
Oh yeah, no, I would be interested to see an actual breakdown of the clock of how much Romney capitalized the microphone. And that guy was, he was like the mooch at the, stoner party.
Yeah, he was.
It's like yeah, hold the bong. No, and no, seriously. I mean, he really the guy seems to think that I mean, I think it's kind of ironic that the guy feels so completely entitled that he can just say whatever he feels like saying.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, this guy is the champion of pandering to whoever he thinks his audience is. And when it's broad based, the faucet opens wide to the broad base, and when it's narrow focus, the faucet narrows down to the narrow focus. And I really think that those things are a talent of a successful person in some things, but not in politics. I think that if you know how to paint with a broad brush and get down to brass tacks, you're a talented person. You're a talented individual in a lot of things. But I think that this just outright lying and denying. I mean, that comment that he made about like you're allowed to have your own plane in your own house, but not your own facts. Like it's just a blatant dig at the idea that, I mean, it's almost like straight psychological projection. I mean, it's very bizarre. Mentally, I just don't understand how you get to a place where you think it's okay to talk like that. Like, you can get down and dirty with your Republican constituents and talk brass tacks about, I'm cutting this, I'm cutting that, give me funding to win the election, and then you can come out here and say, oh, I hold babies, and I care about the guy with 4 jobs in Dayton, Ohio, whatever.
Yeah, the out of work woman in Dayton, Ohio, and I noticed that Channel 7 is already like putting out calls for like, does anyone know
Who
this
is
woman?
she?
Well, I posted on their thing. I know 20,000 of her.
Yeah, of her, exactly. Yeah, check the jails for who got arrested for falling asleep in public yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You
yeah, I thought the whole thing was pretty much a maybe it was the topics they were going on. It was pretty much a bust. They're talking about
Yep.
Simpson bowls and
And
most.
never once really talked about the environment. I mean, this whole idea that somehow we're going to get, energy independence when we're shipping the majority of the coal that we're already mining to China.
Mhm.
Like how does that create energy independence? It's just absurd. But I think the
well,
nice thing is that there was actually, I mean, it was very clear that they do have different visions, even if both of them are in the pockets of, the bankers, right? They still
Mhm.
have very different visions.
I think that's correct, and
Yeah.
I think that I don't believe that either of these two candidates will take the Icelandic approach to solving this problem by ousting the crooks and resorting the Constitution to
Not
avoid
unless we
that
force
problem.
them to. Not, I mean, I think there's a
Correct. No, this is
possibility.
absolutely correct. The Federalist Papers say that. I mean, if you want to talk about if the libertarians are out there, they should be waving the Federalist Papers in people's faces because, and I'll say this day in and day out, every single bit of this starts with Marbury versus Madison. And the fact that, the Supreme Court gets to say what the law is until the Congress writes a law in antithesis to any Supreme Court decision, which they're allowed to do. But when somebody has a contest about what the law says, the Supreme Court says that. And Madison and Jefferson, I believe, were writing correspondence back and forth to each other, said, what do we do here when two organs of government claim the same power? And they said it's clearly, obviously, the responsibility of the citizens to make a decision which of those organs has that power.
Right.
And he said until such time as they step in, the result of which is, they're going to say, oh, it's legislating from the bench. But it's not. They have to follow so many regulations and rules and precedents and laws of the state level, the federal level, county level, whatever, in their decision-making. It's not legislating from the bench. I mean, to a certain degree, yes, the Republicans try to stack the Supreme Court, and yes, the Democrats try to stack the Supreme Court because their agenda is important. All of these things are incredibly important, and people have heart for these things. But, my feeling is that the Republicans have this issue of everybody has to be the way that we are, the one God, the way that we are, the Christian stuff, all that. And the Democrats are like, you know what? If you don't like abortion, don't have one. If you don't want to take the 486 pill, don't. Go live your life. Don't tell me how to live my life. And it's interesting because the Republicans have the Democrats up against the wall about them being paternalistic and patriarchal in the sense of they're dictating how things ought to behave.
The big government discussion.
Yeah, but this whole thing of I mean, and I have a lot of different viewpoints on this, but I think that the important thing, and I don't want to capitalize on time, so I'll try to shorten this up a little bit.
Thank you, Mitt. Rock.
I know. No, look here. This is how things go. In Massachusetts, when I was a governor, it's the Republicans have one thing I think that they are absolutely dead right on, and it's a tax issue. And I believe that there are a lot of people holding money outside of this country that want to bring their money in. They want to invest in America, but there's this 35% wall, and their corporate constituents have convinced them to move their headquarters out of the United States because in Scotland they can pay 20%, or in Europe they can pay 20%. And in America, we're sitting here saying, come on aboard, but it's 35% fee to get here. It's like Ticketmaster, for God's sake. I mean, it really is. It's like, Ticketmaster's making more than the artist. How did they get to that position? Yeah,
but
I know I'm a little on the map, but and I think that Pierce, what's his name, the guy that interviewed Trump, when he asked Trump what he would do, because Trump was still running, and he said, okay, the Chinese ambassador's coming to the United States. What are you going to do? He's like, I'll put him on another plane, put him back to China. He said, I raised the tariffs on the border to 20%, and China's the first one at the table.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah. That aside, what do you think, Sean, were the most ignored, or the things that weren't said? Obviously, there was a lot of things that were said. It was kind of wonky, I thought, for most Americans.
Well, I thought it was really unfortunate that there was no real discussion about the environment except as a source of energy. No discussion of climate change. No discussion about people that are putting their lives on the line to stop the tar sands in Texas. I mean, that's just, of course, that's not on most people's radar anyway. So it wouldn't have been very self-serving, I suppose.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about the war on drugs, the prison industrial complex. It all seemed like kind of Chamber of Commerce topics. Do you have any final closing thoughts on this?
Well, I've been discussing this with folks, this idea that, we don't need to vote because, I'm sick of voting for the lesser of two evils, yada, yada, yada. But I think it was very clear tonight, if it hasn't been beforehand, that there really is a larger evil, like right around the corner. And, as much as you might not like it, it's time to just hold your nose and vote. I mean, that's I like the Affordable Care Act. My kids can be on my insurance until they're 26.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing since they can't find a damn job with insurance, you know? So, I mean, that alone is a good reason. You know, the idea that, you know, I might actually make it to the age to be.
Where have you been?
I was shopping.
You've been out with Reuben, haven't you? It's all over your face.
Eligible for Social Security and Medicare, and those are damn good programs. You know, I mean, these folks want to just finish the job that they've been, you know, working on for the last 30 years.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just
And
said,
that
Sean.
is turning us into a nation of feral mud people.
Yeah, or worse. You know, we're all either going to be in minimum wage jobs or in prison doing minimum wage work. You know,
making tacos at the state penitentiary.
Yeah.
For private companies.
Yeah.
For the bell.
Yeah. The part that I actually was the most disgusted by was the part where Mitt tried to actually be like, you know, a human being or something, and was, you know, bringing out the Constitution. I was waiting for him to break into song, like, you know, like he did with America the Beautiful or something again. And I was like, oh, please, not that again, you know.
I liked when he talked about how his he wants a choice in healthcare. Well, of course, he can choose whatever doctor he wants to go to. He can choose whatever jet he wants to get onto to go to whatever doctor, whatever the world. So, of course, choice.
Well, one of my friends posted, and she said, you know, an 80-year-old trying to choose a healthcare plan, does he actually ever interact with 80-year-olds that are trying to, you know, navigate the healthcare system? It's crazy enough with the kinds of supports that we have. If you know, with his plan, it would be just, you know, insane. He's so out of touch. You know, I mean, his privilege was showing all over the place.
Yeah, he was trying to swing for the fence pretty hard to begin with, and
I think that you know these guys. I had it on the tip of my tongue what I was going to say. You guys were just talking about Mitt Romney's like sense of entitlement to his own
thing.
Yeah, because he was like, you know, you're entitled to your own plane and your own house.
Yeah, and choice in your own doctor. You know, a lot of people just be like, I'd be glad to be able to get a doctor.
I mean, in the well, you know, I just got put on a spend down, so I still have to figure out what I'm doing about that because I just found out I had diabetes last year, and I have some medicines that, you know, at least as far as I know, it's keeping me alive, and not, you know, falling apart. Because I have a lot of other issues that complicate my diabetes, so I'm sort of fascinated with the whole healthcare thing. I know that ultimately my wife will be full-time at her job, and ultimately we could probably get some healthcare from them. Mm-hmm. But she's not making enough money right now. I mean, you know, to do that.
That whole discussion reminded me of sicko. You know, the idea that we're chained to our jobs in order to have healthcare, even when you're 70 years old.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, it is a problem for me because as a disabled person, I think I'm nervous about it because you know, when I was an insurance agent 2 years ago, I interviewed a whole bunch of people just like me. You know, just the people that have you know, they're making $800 a month and they're put into a $174 spend down. And I tell you what, I can make $800 disappear pretty quickly. With bills and debt and other things that I'm working on.
That's toilet paper for a hospital visit, just about.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, let alone I don't know how much that's going to cover my prescription drugs. Because I'm taking a Januvia, which is like a beta blocker of some kind that allows my pancreas and stomach to communicate better. I don't know how it works, but it was explained to me at one point, and it's a very expensive drug, but it works. I mean, my HA1C.
So who won tonight? You guys think?
In the microanalysis, I think Obama won. I think Romney came off. He did come off quite polished, and I think he gets a few points for that. But I think in the microanalysis, Obama won because Romney was pushy, way pushy. I would bet that he comes out 5 or 6 or 7 minutes ahead in the amount of time that he took over the mic.
Yeah, in some ways, don't you think that Obama was just too polite? He
Yeah, that's what I thought. He was kind
I
of
agree
his
with
body
Romney.
language looked kind of deferential.
Yeah, it was, and that's one thing that's driven me crazy about Obama from the very beginning. Romney was talking about reaching across the aisle. Obama's been reaching across the aisle and getting his hand slapped.
He's been doing a reach around across the aisle or something.
Again. And it's like, don't even go there. That's just, and he just sometimes seems so conciliatory. And I guess that's a good, a good tactic. I don't know, but
I think it is because I think that the problem is that I think he's going to allow Romney to come out there and say contradictory things like, you can't just let the state run these things. The government has to step in. And then 20 minutes later, he's like, you can't let the government run these things. You have to let the state have their own way. Right. Those things are right in the same speech. They're going to pull those things out and they're going to use them. And I think that they were just saying, look, give Romney enough rope to hang himself, and he will. And I think that was Obama's strategy from the beginning. I don't think Obama has to stand up there and defend baseless facts with a man who can lie through his teeth.
Oh yeah, he's a good liar. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's not even that good because even Fox News fact checks him all the time. Everybody's withdrawing from him. The policemen's union has withdrawn from the Republican Party this year. They've never done that before.
Whoa.
There's a lot of things.
Well, that's because they know that there'll never be a public sector union job ever again if those guys, get their way. I mean, that's one thing. It was really hilarious when Romney was talking about education. Basically, he was just talking about charter schools and privatization. Once more, business comes to the rescue when they're the ones that are actually, responsible for a lot of the mess that we're experiencing because it's defunding education, just like, his proposal for Medicare.
Right, and the resistance the Republican Party has given Obama all 4 years, basically. There were 23 congressional voting days that Obama had to himself before the Republicans took power, and during the midterm elections, and that's mind-boggling that he got 161 of his promises completed with that little amount of time. So, but the thing that really boggles me is that these guys are talking about, $740 billion of Medicare or $14 billion of Medicare, $714 billion of Medicare, and Romney's trying to say like, we will have the strongest military ever, forever, and and that's important, But here's the thing: if his boy is Ronald Reagan, right? Ronald Reagan did double the defense budget from 8 to 16%. But when you talk about the entire budget of the United States, you're talking 40+% goes to the military right now. 42, I think they said. That to me is incredible in terms of this is what's tying our country down. Yes, those people have jobs. There's 400,000 people involved in the war or whatever.
Well, that's why you can't talk about it hardly at all. You can't talk about drones in Dayton because, God forbid, you're killing the only jobs that actually exist in a war economy, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, but that's the thing that it's that whole thing of like, if those people had jobs other than what they're doing there, my God, take the military funding and give it to the state police level or whatever. I don't care if there's more police out running around. There's people shooting guns in my neighborhood. 6 people have been mugged in the UD and South Park neighborhood in the last month.
Yeah.
in the last week.
Crazy. I'm in South Park too.
Yeah, and I mean, it's nuts. I mean, they caught a couple of the kids, but there's still some doofus behind me over here on Perrine on would be Johnson shooting off a gun. I think they took his big gun away because it sounds like he's shooting a 22 now. But he's still shooting guns, and I can almost guarantee you it's a kid that's younger than 18 because people that are older than 18 find a way to get to a range, and
Right.
kids that are younger than 18 aren't allowed to go to the range unless they're with an adult, so they find ways to shoot guns and get away with it. I mean, it's dangerous. I mean, women getting pistol whipped in the neighborhood. It's just, there's nasty stuff going on because the police don't have enough funding to take care of things.
Well, wasn't there just an article in the Dayton Daily News about all of the rent-a-cops that they've got in the area now because of the public sector police have been underfunded?
Right. Sure. And the public sector police, how qualified are they?
Right.
I mean, doesn't Dayton have one of the lowest test scoring ratings for the civil service exam in the whole country? I mean,
Yeah.
I think. David, didn't you do a piece on that? That you can fail the test and still pass and become a police officer?
Someone did. I think it was maybe Esrati.
You can get a D. Yeah, I mean, you can get a 68 or 65 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, why work too hard as long as you can pass?
Exactly.
yeah, I guess so. Well, that's true. What do they call the guy that graduated last in his class at med school?
Yeah.
Doctor.
I've done everything you asked me to do. I can't do it anymore. Can you purify me? Will you get out of my head and into my stomach? Purify me.